What's up, folks? David Soto Jr. here, and this is the David Soto Jr. podcast. Hey, folks, welcome to episode 54 of the David Soto Jr. podcast. I am your host, David Soto Jr. Oh my gosh. It's been a month since my last recording. And there's so many things are getting in the way. Life, baby had a cold, I had a cold, and then I made a mistake of getting him out of bed too early. Just like his dad, if you wake him up too early, if he doesn't get enough sleep, he's cranky. So that messed up last Sunday. A couple Sundays ago, I did a recording of American Dirt and that whole situation, and through the middle of the recording the baby came running down the hallway, or crawling down the hallway, making some noise. And it wasn't the noise that threw me off, it was the distraction, and I lost my concentration. And so I've just been off. Also, I was waiting for a topic. I was kind of forcing the American Dirt one seemed appropriate. I had an opinion about that, but the other weeks maybe I could have gotten a little motivated if I knew what I was going to talk about. Topics come to me in the morning, sometimes just as I wake up, and nothing really came to me except for the other day. I thought about I'm really a proponent for doing what you love. And I thought about the scene from Office Space, which where did I put it? I'll read that to you. If you don't know about Office Space, first of all, what's wrong with you? Second of all, go watch it. It's still appropriate today. It's pre-2000, so they talk about the Y2K but a little bit, but it's still hilarious and still appropriate if you've ever worked in any type of office environment, corporate environment. So Peter, Ron Livingston, the main character, says, "Our high school guidance counselor used to ask us what you would do if you had $1 million and didn't have to work. And invariably, whatever you say was supposed to be your career. So if you wanted to fix up old cars, you're supposed to be an auto mechanic." And Samir says, "What did you say?" Peter says, "I never had an answer. I guess that's why I'm working at Initech." And Michael Bolton says, it's not the real Michael Bolton, it's another Michael Bolton. "No, you're working at Initech because that question is bullshit to begin with. If that quiz worked, there wouldn't be no janitors because no one would clean up shit if they had $1 million." And that makes me think that for all these years that I've seen the show, so this is pre-Y2K, I think in 1999, in all these years, oh my gosh, 20 years, Jesus, all these years that show, or this movie has been on, and that Michael Bolton has said that question is bullshit, I always thought, is it bullshit? Like, maybe it is. Like, who would be the janitors? Like, nobody would say, I want to clean up shit for a living, or if I had $1 million, I would clean up shit. But I've concluded that two things. A, Michael Bolton is right in a sense, but B, the question is not bullshit. All right, and I'll cover both. The question is not bullshit. So legitimately, what would you do if you had $1 million? Essentially, we need to realize that we need to adjust for inflation, and so maybe the question would be $5 million, or not have to worry about money. If you didn't have to worry about money, what would you do every day of your life? Now, for me, I was in a situation where I didn't really have to worry about money, so I traveled the country in a van and went fishing every day and wrote books. That's what I did if I didn't have to worry about money. Problem is, I wasn't making. I didn't have a lot of money. I didn't have unlimited resources of money. I didn't necessarily have to worry about money. I had plenty. to live the life that I was living. But I didn't have an unlimited resource of money where I could just do whatever I want. So that kind of answers the question, but not. The real question is, what would I do if I had $1 million? Which there's a ranch in Colorado that I want to buy. Costs a little bit more than that. It wouldn't even buy that ranch. Like, what would I do with the ranch? I don't know. I would live there and enjoy having 500 acres to hunt and fish on and all that stuff. But the question is, what would I do if I had $1 million? Honestly, I would invest in real estate. I would buy a piece of land with some water on it, whether it would be a lake or a river, preferably a river, so that I could fly fish for trout. And on that piece of land, I would build houses and cabins, and then I would rent those cabins out on Airbnb. Now, the question is, the next line in this script, or in this dialogue between Michael Bolton, Peter, and Samir. Samir says, you know what I would do if I had $1 million? I would invest half of it in mutual funds and take the other half to my friend Sadulak, who works in securities. And Michael Bolton says, Samir, you're missing the point. The point of the exercise is that you're supposed to figure out what you want to do. So Samir would invest his money, he's totally missing the point. I just said I would invest in real estate. Am I missing the point? No, I'm not. Because I've always had a fascination and a love for real estate. I've always wanted to build what I've said, to build non-conventional homes. I don't know when I started thinking about this. I've always had an interest in real estate, and back when I was in my early 20s, I even took a real estate class. I bought books on buying and selling houses. I really liked it. And then as I got older, I started to develop a fascination with non-conventional homes. I wanted to buy an old filling station, gas station, filling station. There's not too many of them left, where they have large bay doors for people to pull in so that the mechanic can work on it. They have this big overhang where the pumps were, and they have this big glass waiting room in the office. I don't know, I just always thought it was neat. Bay doors, to be able to drive into your living room. I've always had thoughts like that. After living in a shipping container in Iraq, I always thought that someday I'm going to build a home, not necessarily a home, but a small cabin. Like, I had a small little livable container. So I lived in this 20-foot shipping container, and I had a shower, and I had a toilet, I had a refrigerator, I had a desk, I had a bed. It was everything I needed, and I felt so snug and loved it. And I thought, man, what if I could do this in the future? What if I could build a little community of shipping container homes? And if I had a piece of property I had on the lake, I would build at least 3 that formed a U, a horseshoe shape on like 4 sides, a fire pit in the middle, barbecue, fire pit. All the U shape would be facing the water or a view of the mountains or something, and just build those as off-grid as possible. Solar panels, gravity-fed water system, whatever, all kinds of ideas. Minimizing my footprint. replacing the footprint as the shape of the container, planting grass, putting dirt and grass on top, act as an insulator as well. But also the exact footprint that container would take, I would replicate on the roof. Rain catching system. I don't know. Just all kind of that would be fun to me. Like, I would enjoy the search for the property. I would enjoy staying on the property. I would enjoy the build. I would enjoy the marketing, telling of the story, creating a website, the Instagram pics. I would enjoy the process of putting it online and renting it out, maintaining the land and the buildings. And the very last thing on all these things the very last thing on the list of all these things that I would enjoy is the income. I wouldn't do it for the money. I would do it for the ability to do something that I've always thought and hoped and wished that I could do someday. And that's the difference. That's the difference between me investing in real estate, investing in money. If they gave me $1 million, I would invest in real estate. Samir says he would invest half of it in mutual funds and then go to his friend Sadulak Naga, not gonna work here anymore. Is that I would enjoy the process. I would enjoy what it actually takes in order to get money out of it. And honestly, if it didn't make money, I would have a place for friends to come and family to visit. And so it's not the money that motivates me. It's the actual act of doing all of that stuff. The fact that it would take, a few years to accomplish. And maybe when it's done and over with, I would be disappointed because I achieved something, a dream of mine that I had, and I had to think of another dream to achieve. I'm sorry about those ums. The other part, so that's what I would do if I had $1 million. Besides, get a new car. I don't know. I like these Subaru Cross Treks. They look cool, and I want a blue one, I think. Or like a, ready for the woods type of Toyota 4Runner. I would probably buy a gravity blanket, one of those weighted blankets. I just have a feeling I would really enjoy one of them. And they're not cheap, so it's not something you can try out for $200. Try it out, see how you like it. Even if you buy a cheap one from Walmart, $80 or whatever. I would buy one of those. I would buy a new car, and maybe I would buy a house here in Missouri. Whatever. But then I would do all my stuff in Colorado. Everything that I've talked about now in Colorado. That's what I would do if I had $1 million. And that is and it's not eye-opening because I've always known that. But if you ask yourself that, what would you do if you had $1 million? It gives you something to think about. I would take a fishing trip. I would go some fishing. I would go stay in a cabin for a while. I'd probably just go to my buddy's cabin. Like, I don't need $1 million to do that. I just need to buy a plane ticket to Colorado and go stay in his cabin and finish writing, working on a project, a book or something. It's really cool what would happen if, what happens when I'm secluded like that. The amount of writing I can get done in a cabin in the woods. Kind of cliche, but it really does help. It really does work. But when you look at this, what would you do if you had $1 million? It's like an exercise, right? Where you look at what you should be doing with your life, what is it you would love to do. You look at it frees you, like it takes the money out. By imagining you have an unlimited resource of money, it takes the money out of the situation, which is one of my little favorite sayings is take the money out. Take the money out. What would you be doing? That really is something that you need to bring into your life. Whatever your answer is something that you need to bring into your life. It doesn't have to be what you do for a living, but it's going to be something that brings you joy. And it's going to be something that makes you a better person overall. I am pretty sure of that. Some of the saddest people in the world, I think, are sad because they're not doing what they're supposed to do. They're not doing what they love. They're not doing their God-given gift. They're not using it. And I think that this exercise helps you identify that. Helps you. There's a lot of, I think, lost people out there that do nothing with their life. And that's one of the things that's probably missing from it, is doing something that they enjoy and that they love. So that's the point of the exercise. The next part of this podcast, I'm going to make it quick because there's not a lot to talk about this, but why is Michael Bolton actually right? If everyone got to do what they loved, if everyone got to had $1 million, who would clean up shit? Who would clean up after you, right? Who would be the janitor? Who would make those boneless, skinless chicken breasts for you? Like somebody cuts those. Somebody sections the chickens off by hand with a very sharp knife. Like who would do that if you don't want to? Who would kill the animal and butcher it and skin it and clean it and wrap it in little styrofoam and plastic and take it to the grocery store or bring it to your house? You would have to do that. The answer is you. You would have to clean up after yourself. You would have to do all of these jobs, all of this work that we as a society want to pay people minimum wage for, less than a living wage. We want to pay people pennies to clean up after us. And if everybody got to do what they love, Michael Bolton's right. The character Michael Bolton. If everybody got to do what they love, if everybody had $1 million, they would not clean up after your ass, or my ass, our ass. We'd have to clean up after ourselves. We'd have to do the stuff ourselves. And for a lot of people, that would suck. Like there's a lot of wealthy people out there that have money so they can afford to have somebody come and clean their house. You have a nice corporate job, you work in a nice building, and then after you go home, somebody comes and cleans up after you. Somebody comes and stay there till 10 or 11 o'clock at night, cleaning up after the mess that you made while you were there all day long. If you had to do this stuff yourself, a couple things would happen, I think. One is you'd appreciate the person that actually does that. The other is you would be a little bit more careful about the mess you make. The perfect example of this, I think, is the person who has been a server, right? Any person who's worked as a server knows what it's like. So you have two types of, in one person, you have pre-server and post-server. They're two different people. They're the same person, but they're two different people because now you understand when you go to a restaurant or someplace and you have or are a server, you're going to treat that server, you're going to treat your server with respect, with kindness. You're going to be empathetic. You're going to tip them better. You're going to tip them a lot better. You know who worked in the industry for a long time, and she leaves a ridiculous amount of money. for anybody who brings us food. I was a server for just a few months, and that changed my life. That changed my perspective. I never not leave a tip. I always leave 20% no matter what. Sometimes I tip more if the service is excellent. But if you ever been a server, there's before server and after server you. And the way that you treat other servers is completely different than when if you have never waited tables in your life. And that's because you know what it's like, right? That's because you'd have to do that yourself, or you'd have done that in your life, and you know you've walked in these people's shoes. So you treat them better. You take care of in this case, your table, right? You stack plates. You'll wipe the table off with your napkin. You'll do anything you can to make that waiter or waitress's life a little bit easier, because you have been in their shoes and you have done that. This is the same thing as if you had to clean up after yourself, but then you tried to hire somebody to do that for you to make your life easier. You would be a lot better. You would actually probably pay that person more. You would be a lot nicer. You would be a little bit more considerate to that person. And that goes for anything. All of these jobs that we think are beneath us, or that we think is not worth us doing, that we can pay people pennies for to do. If we had to do all of that work ourselves, imagine how the world would be. Imagine how we would treat people. Imagine how we would pay people. If you're in a situation where you can't pay somebody to do something and you don't want to do, that you have to do it yourself, imagine how much you would pay somebody to do it. People will very easily give up their money if they know how hard a job is. She had 2 Bernese Mountain Dogs. We're now don't have any. Very sad. But if you've ever, she used to take her dogs to groomer, very expensive. But once a month she would come out a couple $100 to do this. There was a time where she was kind of low on cash, couldn't afford it. The owner of the dog grooming place said, "Just come in, use my stuff, and do the dogs yourself, and I won't charge you anything." And she said, "Okay." She ended up spending hours there and breaking her back because it was hard work. And as a result, the first thing she said was like, "I'm never going to complain about how much you charge. In fact, I would probably pay you double of what it cost." And that is a perfect example of what would happen if we had to do the work that we pay people to do because we don't want to, or even if we just don't have the abilities or capabilities or the tools. Imagine that an entire world filled with people like that. Entire world that would either make the person's job easier, or empathize with the person, or pay them more than $11 an hour or $7.50 an hour or pennies, or go to another country and pay somebody pennies on the dollar to do manufacture stuff for us. Then imagine an entire world where we appreciated people for everything that they did. That would be the result of an entire world of people that did what they loved. That imagine that, what would they do if they had $1 million and then do that thing? I think the entire world would be better. I really do. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen. But it can happen in my world. It can happen right here. It can start with me, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to live my life as if I had $1 million. So nothing's changed for me. This exercise isn't new. I've always thought, what would I do if I didn't have to worry? I always think about these things. I always write these down. I want to build non-conventional homes. I want to live in Colorado. I want to rent out property. I want to build container homes. I've been writing these things down and thinking about these things for years. This is not new to me, but maybe it is to you. What would you do if you had $1 million? If you didn't have to worry about money, what would you wake up every day and do? That is my challenge to you. Just before bed journal. Hold on 1 second. Excuse me. My just before bed journal is done. It is live. It is on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. Fool, I don't mess around. If you saw episode or listened to episode 50, you know everything about the just before bed journal. I'm not going to go over everything, but I will say that if you're looking at the YouTube, I use it. The reason this journal exists is because I need it in my life. And I would love to sell 1 million of them. But the thing is that I get them super cheap because I created them and I'm the publisher. And that's why I made it. That's why they exist. So that I can buy this journal super cheap. But hell, if you want to buy them, that would be awesome. I've already sold I could say a bunch, I guess. I've sold, there's been live for a week. I've sold a few. And the weird thing is it's not a 99-cent promotion. Like this isn't Kindle, it's a journal. So you have to buy it. Typically when I launch a book, I launch it for 99 cents or something, $2.99 or something cheap. And I try to get everybody to buy it. This I have been promoting, but it's not a discount. It's $9.99 to get it. And I've sold a bunch, and that's pretty cool. But yeah, the Just Before Bed Journal is finally live. You find it on Amazon. I'm going to include a link. I did a little bit of writing about this topic, $1 million. What would you do if $1 million? I haven't published it yet, but I will, and I will get that link in the show notes too. I appreciate you tuning in. Please hit me up on Twitter at David E. Soto Jr. JR for Jr. Hit me on Instagram at David E. Soto Jr. JR for Jr. And I don't know. Life is cool. Life is good. I appreciate it. I appreciate you tuning in, folks. Thanks.